In the payments business, there's many ways that you can make your money. There's many ways that you can go out to the market and choose who you're going to serve and the merchants you're going to serve. And we'll be honest, the majority of our partners, over 5,500 of you across the United States now as part of PayProTec Nation, are usually just generalists. You're serving restaurants and you may sign up a dentist and then you get a veterinary and then you get the random whatever else, someone who sells those fancy little, I can't even remember the names of, but you might sell the FUBU things or whatever. I don't know. So you can tell I don't plan this. But today, we're going to talk about somebody who's bringing payments and a payments experience into a business that's focused on specifically helping with events and different products. So as we get started, let me bring the best looking people in payments on the business up on the screen. We'll introduce first, not our guest, but our regular co-host on the upper left-hand side of your screen from Warsaw, Indiana, Mr. Mike Stetzel. Mike, can you help me here? What is the name of those fancy little stuffed dolls that are all the rage that I was trying to come up with the name of? Fabubus or Fabubus? Does anybody know?
Beanie Babies? Way back in the day?
Okay, you just dated yourself, Mike. Okay, so at
I
least I know
did.
there's something new
Well,
out
hell
there.
no, I don't know those then.
All right.
Brian's younger than all of us, so maybe.
There we go. Maybe Brian's going to help us. We'll find out. We'll go back. So, Mike, welcome. Thank you so much. Mike, I'm going to have you do the introduction of our guest in a second. I didn't tell you ahead of time to do that. So, in a second, I'm going to have you do our introduction. And on the bottom left-hand corner of your screen, Mrs. Jenny Rickle. Jenny, do you know what I'm talking about? Because I can't come up with the name. I knew I could Google it in a second if I'd find it, but I've seen these on. Do you know what I'm talking about?
Are you talking about the little squishy?
Yeah, they're like you don't know what you're getting. They're selling for like $1,500. They look like Beanie Babies kind of things, but they're fancy.
Squishmallow.
So it is. It has some
boo in it. Google it now. Need to get the official.
Okay, so all right, Brian knows it. Okay, Brian knows it. All right, so because see this, we had to go to the youngest person in here. Well,
all right,
I don't even know the ages, but younger than Mike and I. Mike, I'll let you do the introduction of our guest.
He still has a 3 at the beginning of his age, so. He's younger than all of us. So anyway, want to welcome Brian Kames, a longtime sales partner of ours who has gone through a lot of iterations of his relationship with us and doing business different ways. And we're going to get into that in a minute, but definitely excited to welcome Brian Kames to Office Hours today.
Brian,
welcome from Warsaw to you in Milwaukee. Suburb.
That's right.
So, Brian, you're based outside Milwaukee. Is that? I actually know the answer to this because I've asked this question because we happened to have lunch a couple years ago. But is that always been home? How did you get to the greater Milwaukee, Wisconsin area?
Yeah, so it's always been home for me, and not home of the great La Boo Boo is what I think you're looking for.
There we go. And I just realized something happened, and when I clicked your button on my thing, so let me fix that, it gave me, which no one wants to see more of me, so boom, there you go. So now if I hit the button that says Brian, it's actually going to be Brian instead of Nate. That wasn't, all right, that works out.
Always been home. That's the only fault, I guess, of a Milwaukeean is we are comfortably miserable. We always said we're going to go to Florida or somewhere else, and we ended up always staying here. We just vacation in other places, but it's always been home. The crazy thing is my dad's office has moved from Milwaukee to Brookfield, which is about 25 minutes away. Round the horn, we're back in Franklin, actually, a suburb of Milwaukee County. So my dad gets to do a 5-minute drive to work, and I'm live by the lake, so I'm a 20-minute drive now, but it's always been home and easy airport to get in and out of, so it's not too bad. And if I really want to go big city, I just go to Chicago, so it's not too far.
Well, it's a beautiful area. I actually vacationed with my kids up in Green Bay and Door County this summer, and I've done Milwaukee before. Milwaukee's beautiful. I like to refer, respectfully to Milwaukee as Wrigley North, but I'll just move on from that.
We have to at this point.
About those first place Brewers, hey.
Yes, you guys are killing it. The first third of the season, you guys, I could speak proudly, and we're doing just fine. But you guys are through the roof. So
True.
Total respect. Yep. So let's just take a long spurt. How did you, obviously you and your dad, you already kind of said that you guys are in business together, but kind of give us a elevator story of how you got into payments, and then how you, just how you got into payments and how you got into working with your dad.
So
And I
the
don't
elevator, we're going up from the ground floor to the top
see
here. So
connection.
we had I worked at Wells Fargo for 6.5 years, and I was always the person that would meet a business client, talk to them about the first data Pfizer stuff that the merchant guy can provide, and I would just give the deal off to this guy. He would do the deal and provide poor customer service after that because they were just there to do the contract, make the sale, and then move on. So if there's help, it's the customer calls me the banker, not the merchant guy. So that always kind of rubbed me the wrong way, but hey, that's my job. I do that, but I'm involved in every step of the way almost. So I kind of knew how the business was ran, how there's this profit margin of some sort, whether it's interchange plus or whatever the flat rate is and the buy rate and stuff like that. So I kind of knew that. My dad's business started taking off, and the 123 IMP stands for Interactive Marketing Promotions. And what we were doing before was a survey where it's a digital scratch off game. We collect data, give a survey questions, and then provide a chance to win money at the end of it. And that was really taking off. We were trying to do the sports world back then. So I actually ended up quitting Wells Fargo. We went to a Blue Star event in Chicago, the big city again. At that time, we went to a cool event at the White Sox Stadium called Guaranteed Rate Field at that time. And I met a guy named Stacy Carrillo there way back. So, and he's explaining all this stuff. I'm like, Jesus, like I just got off doing that, and now I could be that guy. And we didn't have credit card processing with our business at this point, but it's like, well, I could just bring that to the table, and why not do that? So we weren't really ready for that as a company, but individually, I could do that. So at that point, I started with PayProTec, and we started learning the ropes. And then Stacy's like, "All right, bye. I'm doing something else now. So I'm not sure what direction or where he's going right now or where he's at. But he's a good guy, likes to bounce around. But then it's like, all right, talk to this guy, Mike Stetzel. And it's like, okay, well, now I make friends with the new guy and see how that goes. And I mean, talk about things happening for a reason. I mean, that's exactly what needed to happen, and the relationship grew from there. And that's what's really nice about this. I got into it because I knew some stuff, but the progression from day one to like now is just, it always is easy to take as many steps as you want and when you want them. So that was a nice kind of transition between adding things. And then as we grew our business from just the survey stuff to now 123 IMP, we, because of COVID, added more of a ticketing side to our business where we do online ticketing and in-person ticketing. So the kiosk behind me here, that's our number one guy here that helps us with that. And then now we have the credit card processing that goes along with it. So that's it in the nutshell. We're at the top floor here at the elevator ride, but that's kind of how it happened, and we're glad I took the elevator.
Perfect. No, I what I think is
Um,
that. Go ahead, Mike.
sorry.
Go ahead.
Oh, are you
Jump in.
sure? If you're following, well, I was just gonna say and we can dig into this a little more in a few minutes, but as far as the depth and exactly what you do, but do you want to share your celebrity story?
Sure, sure. So if this was my
Brian's a
dad's
celebrity.
office, he would have the gold record right here of the chicken dance. So that was my grandfather actually that brought that and recorded that here in America back in 1982. And that's the continuous fun fact we share at conventions and with everyone. So if you don't know who I am, it's like, oh, you're the chicken dance guy, is what my dad would say.
Your dad did
So
that. It was fun enough. I was lucky enough to attend a conference with them to help out with a presentation we did about chargebacks. It's not a lie. His dad will whip out a CD.
yeah,
What did he give away? A CD to a couple people, I think.
probably
Played it on
autograph
the
CD.
phone, all queued up. But um, if I could do a follow up question, is maybe share a little bit about like your first events. Like you said, you were there to collect information. You were giving away the prizes that the event owner wanted you to give away. In the meantime, they had to fill out your event, the entry form. You guys to compile that, and then kind of where did you go from there? What events are you doing now, and what else have you added now? Like you said, besides just collecting data.
Yeah, so that's where our company kind of morphed into adding a piece of product, having this ticket aspect to it. So the kiosk was our original program that would just run this. Now it can run our ticket program, but just adding a different piece that allows us to accept a payment, because before the surveys were paid by the event or the client, the show producer. We actually met this other guy that said, "Hey, I have this other ticketing company. Like, wouldn't it work well if we had a combination of things to offer?" So that's kind of how they got developed into where we're at now. And then basically it's like, well, we had online processing, e-commerce, but now the morph is to have it in person on that. And that's where the machines like the A920 behind me and stuff like that was always a separate piece, and then integrating everything with a lot of programming and some crazy headaches and a lot of follow up with the back office of different processors like MegTech and equipment um, suppliers like MegTech. Those are the ones that give our stuff here. So understanding the journey between, hey, EPX has all this integration, which is great, but to actually having something like this that I have a little Bluetooth device that works and goes to paymentshub.com and integrates with all our stuff is just fantastic. And that's the journey that we had to go through, and it wasn't easy. And that's something that you just can't call someone up. I mean, that's the only reason I'm working with MegTech is because they returned a call back a couple of years ago. And it's like, hey, I want to order a lot of equipment. How am I going to do this? How does it integrate between all the encryptions that have to happen, the logistics behind just even getting something to be in the office, to be connected through a client. That's something, I guess, that was the journey there. It's still ongoing, you could say, because there's always some new stuff to develop. But that's the journey between kind of where we were and where we're at. If that answers your question, Mike. I guess.
Yeah, it does. No, that's exactly what I was thinking.
All right, Jenny, you got a question or?
I mean, I love your story. What's your favorite part of your job? So you've come a long way, right? And you have a lot going on, but like, what do you just love from your day to day? What's your favorite part?
So I would say I'm a product guy, and if I show someone and they get it, I get a thrill on that. So again, back to like Wells Fargo days, if I could show you how to save money or do a loan for this or a credit card balance transfer, like, and you understand it, that's what I kind of get a thrill out of. So being a product guy, I enjoy showing someone how all our stuff works and having them get it, and then having the privilege of, it's a Friday night. I look at my calendar right now. I got 2 county fairs. I got a parade of homes going on right now, and I don't have to attend any of them, and everyone else knows what to do. That's a thrill for me. That's the best part. The other part is opening up new technology almost every other month. I have a new box, and I used to have new car smell back before the Wells Fargo days. I was into cars and did the car business there for a couple months. New car smell is awesome, never gets old, and so does the new box smell when you unbox technology. That is also a thrill.
So true.
Being the first person to touch it,
Yeah.
taking the little peel off of the little
Yes.
the little safety thing, that's a nice thing. And so having all this technology in front of me, that's a fun thing too, just to see all the fun things to touch and feel and connect. But the Achilles heel is make sure there's enough charge and batteries and a connection in your internet.
The details.
Awesome.
Yes.
Oh, you had me like I love. I mean, it almost makes me buy new phones and new technology because I have to nothing like unboxing. Right when you joined up with your dad was having this business that was growing, and at that point, I'm assuming the growth model was all making money on upfront costs, paying for the service. And as you've integrated payments, how has that changed how you have looked at where you create your profit centers? And how has payments helped you or changed how you've looked at making profit when you're coming in and helping, manage sometimes huge amounts of events, like not only the ticketing and merch tables and giveaways and whatever else you're doing, multiple places, which they're paying a piece of, but then you're also getting the thing that you learned back at Wells Fargo that you didn't get to touch any of, the residuals and bonus that you're getting part of the PayProTec family. How has that changed how you do business, and how has that grown where the percent, you don't have to share your books, but is it 5% of your business, 10% of your, like what percentage is that growing, and what's your goal when it comes to the payment side being part of how you're making money?
I don't know the actual percentage, but I'll say we always refer to the payments part as a wedge product, because I could have a little county fair or a church festival that we send out all this tech that we own, and we charge a little bit of rental on that, which is nice to get that money back. But yeah, at the end of the day, we're not retiring off that. We're not paying big bills off of that, because yeah, like they only had say $20,000, $30,000 worth of business that weekend, and what's the residual on that? It's not much, but it's a repeat business. It's a repeat model. So what's nice is I can have one event here. I charge them the rental fee. The next week, I have the same equipment, just moved to a different address, and now I'm doing that. So that's the way, at least, we're getting some of that income back. And the processing helps because it just keeps it under all one roof, and I think it's easier to touch. So I have an example of another county fair in Florida that is looking at us right now, and they're saying, "Well, can I put my own merchant account in?" Well, yeah, you can, but then you don't get me on the back end helping you. And that's one of my sales pitches when I go to the local person or a big fair or big event. It's, you don't call the 800 number. You can, if it's you can't get hold of me, but you call me first. So we pride ourselves on, when the phone rings, there's a team of us that's going to answer that phone. You always have someone to text, and if there's a problem, then I'm calling tech support, I'm calling Mike, stuff like that. So having these relationships so deep, I mean, I just text Mike, and he's answering pretty much after hours sometimes, which is awesome. Not to say everyone's privileged to that, but I think that's the relationship we got, where I'm not abusing that. At the same time, if he's busy, I know he's going to get back to me whenever he can on that. And if it's an emergency, I do have an 800 number that I can call. So I think it's the customer support aspect that keeps our processing here, which leads us to then more money, because then this little church festival, okay, what does the guy do? Oh, now he's in charge of the county fair as well. So we're using these internal connections to make even more money. And that's kind of what one person leads to the next. And that's what's really the bread and butter of the processing world, is just, yeah, who do you know? How do you know them? And how can you help them? So if you kind of use those three strategies around processing, that's kind of what our success is, because anyone can go buy a Square, anyone can go buy a Clover, basically. They're available everywhere. Almost every bank offers them, it seems. But who offers stuff that I can teach you, that I also get involved in the payments hub part too. So county fairs don't have to create their menu. I do that for them. So I think that's another part of, if it wasn't for that processing piece, I might not have a personal touch into that. And I think that's kind of a sticky issue that keeps them around and keeps them coming back, or helps them brag, hey, use Brian and use 123, because they're the people that are helping us throughout the thing, versus you hear these other horror stories out there from other companies, maybe like Clover, maybe other ones, I don't know. But, you have to call it 800 number. You got to give a blood sample. You got, it's like 10 minutes before your question gets answered. And I already have it solved at this point. So that's where processing has really helped us indirectly as a wedge product, I'll say.
Awesome. So, Mike, I'll give you the next question after this one.
Okay.
What are how do you choose? A lot of different businesses could use your services. How do you choose what markets you're going into? You mentioned, obviously, you're in Wisconsin, but you're targeting things in Florida. I don't know how are you choosing your growth and who you're serving with the 123 services?
So that's a really good question. If you remember, I mentioned the sporting side of things. You almost have to like pivot, not monthly, but like if you see a trend not working out, we have to avoid it or change paths. So in the sporting world, it's like you either got to be huge and know a lot of people, or you're just going to fail. So we decided to go to this fair route, because who's paying attention there? We have competition here as well, but in the same time of, how do we figure out what's working and what's not, and keeping that together. That's where we just see what conventions we're doing and where our success comes from, and just doubling down on that, if I can say it that way. So, for example, in the fair industry, there's like a local level or a state level, then there's the national level. And some of these shows that come in, they're not a fair. They could be a monster truck show that travels around, or an auto show. We've done auto shows before and boat shows. So, but each though those like niche categories have their own divisions and their own shows and trade shows and stuff. I mean, there's I'm sure a thing in Vegas every week here, maybe not two every week.
Mm-hmm.
You can always go to one, but to kind of focus on one is kind of what our strategy is. And if other ones come in between that, great. But I think our focus, if we can just have one vertical and know the competition, dive deeper with these folks, that's kind of the strategy there we're taking.
Mike?
Excellent. I love it. And I think to expound a little bit on what you guys are saying here, part of the reason they're going to Florida is obviously to find events that are either travel, where they take their food trailer or whatever it is, or a fleet. The one lady we met, I don't know how many she had, Brian, 60, 50, something like that. And they're around the country every weekend. And because they're based south, there's more opportunity there for more year-round business. So I was wondering, Brian, if you would talk a little bit about some of the scale, the larger events that you've done, and your ability to, even as their payment provider, you're also offering yourself as an employee when they need the help, like maybe, the concert t-shirts business, and share whatever you want about that. It doesn't matter to me if I mean, we're talking about hundreds of thousands of dollars of t-shirts in a weekend. And so I want to share a little bit about that, because it's not just the county fair. It's you guys are taking on large things, and you did it with Pay Anywhere. Weekend after
Yeah.
weekend after weekend, still doing it.
So again, I love Matt Proctor, and I love those POS videos and stuff, and everyone's like, oh, like look at all this great POS stuff, and they kind of downgrade Pay Anywhere a little bit. It's like, I guess if you know the quirks of it and you know how to work it, it's actually a really good tool, and I can run with it really easily. And that's what you have to, I guess, portray to someone. It's like, look, you either have inexpensive equipment, and yeah, it doesn't do maybe everything that a professional crazy executive POS can do, but it's $14.95 a month for a little device before data versus hundreds of dollars on something. So you kind of work in between the details, or we have an auto show that does their concessions. If you have to open up 20 different mids because they want 20 different menus, well, then that's fine. They're the one that has to click through the application, and they're fine with it. But I guess the other verticals of like, yeah, how do we get the bigger stuff is like, think of like a county fair. There's a carnival, there's the concessions, there's the gates, there could be internal stuff with floor planning, for example. There could be 4 different mids right there, and they're all in one area. So like that's what our company likes to focus on, is how can we do, even it's one event, but it's not just one event. It's I'm collecting $1 from that person 4 different times throughout that day. So now they went through the gate, they paid through credit card there or online. Now they go through the concession, they bought there. Now they go to the concert, the grandstand, they have to buy another ticket sometimes. I'm touching in there. And then, yeah, now here's an opportunity to sell merch at the end. So who's doing the merchandise sales? Maybe it's the band, maybe it's a managing member locally. And that's one of our customers. But it's a matter of like, how many different times can you touch the same customer? And again, make it easy for the customer, the merchandise. So for the shirts, he has a program that he can use that tells you medium, large, small, all the different sizes. Or you can use Pay Anywhere, keep it simple, and just have a $50 button that they have to touch. Because at the end of the day, I can show you a report that says, here's what we got. You sold this many. Here's how many you're short. They don't believe that. All these people want to still count out at the end of the day. fair members, they have to do all these crazy audits. So if you make it easier for someone to utilize the technology that they're not used to and get involved. So I like to always be involved with everything, whether it's the a move 5,000. Oh, did you know you can actually program a server on here? Pay anywhere. Like, you want this? Let me show you how to do that to help the merchant along the way. I think that's another person. That's how I get involved. And then if I'm there setting up 20 machines or something like that, I'm very familiar with how the menu looks, how the process works, and I'm teaching people how to do that. Half the time they're like, "Hey, can you can you work a couple hours here while the other person's on break or something like that, and fill in?" And I've done that too. So, which gives me more experience in the field on how our technology is working, what needs to be adjusted, what I don't like, what I like, and that helps me with the next client or the next year that they do something. So that's the only bummer is some of these fairs. It's a once a year thing. It's the five days and you're done. Hit it and go. And hopefully the same people are in charge next year to renew on that or to re up, because they could have the same type of relationship with the competition, and now the other person I knew is out, and now another new person's in, and that's the only potential loss on everything. Or new technology comes out that might not work. So unfortunately, we saw. I don't know if you guys saw the end of life on the A920. Was it next year that's coming out or something like that?
Yeah,
But
not pro, but
right. But
yeah.
so if you had a whole mess of these, then eventually that's gonna be a problem. But now, just like whatever, I can't remember the new name of our device, the orange one.
Sunmi
Um,
P2.
yeah, so it's just like that's kind of exciting. So I always tell people as well that even if you're with an event with us, you always get the latest technology, because if next year I have something better, you get it on that. I think that's another thing that keeps all these events around, or they're interested in the new stuff, because I've heard plenty of horror stories of I bought this Square device 5 years ago and now it's kaput. I can't even update it. It's a paperweight. Now I have to buy more stuff. So I always sell that aspect of, again, the inexpensive experience of just rent the equipment from us and have all this cool technology. And if something better comes along, you get it, I think. And that's where those bigger places, they like that because they don't want to be involved with the, the investment up front, or something that might change in their business, and they'll be stuck with all this equipment that they're not going to need. So that's another cool piece I like about PayProTec.
If anybody else has a question, jump in. But I know I had one. Brian, what are one or two? You've kind of mentioned like the things, but what are those things that you're able to problem solve quickly that you've learned on the payment side of business that maybe you've hey, this is how I fixed it myself, or this is how I quickly get that fixed? I know Mike's, I'm sure, walked through multiple issues. What are one or two of those big issues that, as you've learned to fix them, it makes you the Superman, and could be good tips to other people that are reaching out to their merchants to say, learn how to fix this. This makes it a lot better.
Yeah, I think the biggest one is the menus on the A920 device, or like a PAX device. Those are easy ones, especially when you show people how to do it. They're like, "Oh my god, this is awesome!" Or setting up different like login emails. One of the biggest tricks I found, if you have like a Gmail account, especially, and working with these private events, you're not going to tell the 80-year-old guy that wants to work the machine, hey, can you get an email and password and all that? We can set it up all ahead of time. If a fair, for example, let's use fair@gmail.com. If you have fair and then the plus sign, and you can do whatever other wording you want after that at fair.com, or gmail.com, excuse me, then you can have kind of like unlimited emails on that, which is really cool to outsmart the payments hub process. Because now if I have an email that says fair plus eastgate at gmail.com to payments hub, that's a unique email. But if I'm the owner of fair@gmail.com, I actually can set all those passwords ahead of time. So it's one real email that I'm getting, but it's also all these individuals that I can create ahead of time with passwords. So then I can go to the fair manager and say, here's exactly all the logins you need to do to establish how to track everything per gate or per individual. So that was a really cool trick that I like to solve, and a lot of people don't know about that little trick with the Gmail, with the plus signs. That was a cool one. And then other ones are connectivity. If people don't know how to work their stuff to toggle the SIM card on or off, or like how to troubleshoot that, that's another kind of good one that kind of saves the day and makes everyone happy. And again, knowing your equipment ahead of time. So, fun story with the concert guy. My very first thing we did, we had E600s. I think we had about 15 of them or 20 or something like that. I had Kiss on the front and all that. It was all set to go. I am so like prepared. I got it in my hard line. I got him with the Wi-Fi. I got him with the SIM card ready. Like, I am so set. There's a flood of people ahead of us, just like 10 people deep, 50 wide. It's just like you're looking at just the crowd that's ready to buy merch before the event. And now the machines don't work. Holy cow. I'm thinking to myself, do I just run to the street and just like never come back, or how do we solve the problem? And it's just like, all right, well, we got to go to plan B. So good thing I had plan B, C, and D lined up. So I was prepared. I simply just took this E600 off the cradle. It jumped onto its SIM card. It saved the day. Later, did I know that there's a device setting where you can toggle the Ethernet on or off? And that's what was actually off when it was on the cradle at that point. So again, first time out of the gate, didn't know that. But luckily I had plan B, C, and D lined up. And that's my biggest recommendation to how to save the day and become a hero, is to know what's next and how to solve a problem when things go down. Or people always say, what happens when it goes offline? Well, we have an offline mode. Here's steps A, B, and C, how to do it. This is what we're going to do in case this happens. Have a baggie. Have a clear baggie that zips, that fits an A920, A920 Pro into it, that you can use outside at a gate. Huge save the day. You can touch the screen through the bag. You can tap the card through the bag and keep the device safe and sound. Huge game changer on an outside event, and no one has a broken device at the end of it. A huge hero of the day right there. There's the little Ziploc baggie.
Love it. And yeah, and that investment of the $1.29 for 20 of those bags or whatever,
Yeah.
saves the day. Love that. Absolutely.
For sure.
And I love I was just earlier today, because in the like for form testing, whenever we're doing some type of campaign for any of our partners or ourselves or whatever, and we want to test the whole workflow, and I want to do it 10 different times, but I don't want to have to go into the database and take out my email and everything. Using that plus, it works on your Google Workspace emails as well, and so I just put Nate plus, and it just keeps and I don't have to, and I can retest and then just keep coming into the email, and it just creates it in the database. Oh, I love those tips. All right, yeah. Mike, Jenny, any other questions as we wrap up here? Our office hours with Brian Kames.
Jenny, go ahead if you're. Sorry,
it's yours,
okay.
Mike. All you, Mike.
One thing, Brian. Let's talk about the largest event you did with the concert shirts vendor and the number of terminals you had. Because again, yes, you just explained some quirks with Pay Anywhere that you've learned to work around and make it be a very effective. So, this can be done. How many of you had online at one time?
I think the record was 60. We had 60 machines. And also within those shows, we used to only use one login, which I think was a total drain on like how the system works. I don't know that for sure, but I'm guessing that's how it works. So when we switched to everyone having their own individual login, that was really key. And the way I explained it to someone was, if you needed to do a refund or double check that transaction went through because maybe the connection was sketchy, by the time you hit the hamburger button and then go down to transactions, the one you're looking for is already 50 down from an event that does that. So when I was working with the manager, just to show him like the back end, where we're at, imagine every time you hit refresh on your report, it's another $1,000, another $1,000.
Mm-hmm.
That's the type of volume that they were doing at their peak. And that was exciting for me to see, because it's like, that is some serious like volume going through, which also creates the problem of, is your merchant approved for that amount? So I ran into that as well, where I'm excited to see, a restaurant, they kind of know what they're doing, and auto body shop, they kind of know what they're doing. If I say to some of these fair people that might be new to the fair board, well, what's your average attendance? Well, first of all, if you ask that to any show, it's always going to be 5 different numbers, because no one knows for sure what it is, or they fluff up the number or something like that. And then I say, well, how much business do you do? Or, I don't know. We think we have
Yeah.
this much, and all of a sudden it's the record-breaking year, and the concerts. One of the famous ones is Dodge County. This might have been like 15 years ago. Had one of the country stars, before they were famous. They booked them for their little grandstand show that holds like 5,000 people, and in that, they booked it ahead of time. They became huge, famous, and now they had this commitment to play a little Dodge County fair. So imagine, like, we're used to 5,000 people at $20 or whatever the heck the number was for that back then. But now, because this guy's a country star, they had to like put all these other seats in and bleachers anywhere they can find, anywhere they can rent, just to like max the place out and get every dollar possible. So that's one of those emergency texts to Mike at the end of the day saying, "Hey, remember that merchant got approved for 50,000? Can we put them up to like 300,000 now?" And like, to have a relationship like that with a partner like PayProTec is huge. I mean, another save the day moment where you're now the merchandise provider, and you're doing $800,000 in a night, and you have to pay basically that money because it's going to them. You have to pay that to the band pretty much the next day or whatever.
Mm-hmm.
If that money's not in your account, that's going to be pretty bad. And who's he going to look at? He's going to look at me as saying, "Hey, solve this problem. You're a big, I'm never going to use you again because we don't get our money." So I also have to navigate even the back office on some of these things, just to make sure the merchant is set up correctly. Or all of a sudden, what's your ticket? It's $10, and family packs 30. But now I just understood that the merchant just took a $50,000 payment for their space that they sold at the show to one of their vendors.
Mm-hmm.
It's like, well, I didn't know about that, but how can we quickly solve that to make sure that there's not a 10-day hold on their money or 30-day hold on their money? So it's a fun part of the business, where all of a sudden you're dealing with these huge numbers and they can be fast, but how do we solve that problem to make sure we're compliant, we're doing things by the book, we're not getting anyone in trouble or fired, and everyone's happy at the end of the day. So that's another important piece of it. So it's not just a dream of, oh, we're going to have all this money, because there's underwriting that goes into it too.
Awesome.
Yeah, definitely credit to those underwriting and risk teams behind the scenes for working with us on those things, and building a relationship with us that also involves a lot of trust, and hearing what we have to say, and looking in a logical manner. So appreciate that.
All right. Before we close out, Brian, Jenny, I'll give you the final word, and if anybody else has any questions. But what are your dreams moving forward as you look forward to the next several years, as you grow your business, as you look for opportunities both on the logistics side of your business and on the payment side? I don't know how you name it, but what are some things you dream about as you grow from 2025 into the next 5 years, let's say?
I think for a company dream, we want to acquire our competition on that. So there's a couple out there that are our size. So imagine I have where we're at now, and now we double our processing side because we just acquired another business. So I think that's one of our goals coming up. And individually, just to be kind of the master of payments, where someone can come to you, and that's kind of one of the things we didn't really touch on, but like, how do I see other merchants or see other opportunities? Because some people, they come up with these off the wall things, and it's like, I don't know, like, it's nothing we normally do, but how can we make it happen? Is to become the source of like the weird things, because sometimes those weird things, that's a niche in the market, and at that point now we're going to capitalize on that for bonuses and residuals and stuff. So to be better at that, to acquire some other things, and to keep things in PayProTec, because it's so easy. I think if we can eventually, the long-term goal, hint, hint, nudge, nudge, is to have our ticketing system almost integrated in Payments Hub, or I mean through Pay Anywhere. That would be huge too. One of the things I work on is having our system that scans in the tickets integrated into packs. So we're working on a couple different things there, but to have like truly a full integration into stuff, or to have even more things involved with the PayProTec products, that's where I definitely want to see our company in the next 5 years.
Awesome. All right, man. We asked a lot of questions, but we don't. If we create a 2-hour piece of content, no one's going to watch it later. We know that. But so we'll break this up into pieces. But Brian, you've given us some great tips, some great insights, some little nuggets, and I think inspired some people that probably what I expect down the road. We're going to find someone in the next year that watches this and goes, man, I was doing something, and then this inspired me to think, man, I need to make payments part of it. There's so many pieces and business people that are out there that are doing business right now that they should be making a portion of their income from the payments that they're already taking and helping process, but they're not thinking that way, and they're not building something that is cohesive and builds that loyalty that you've built with your already customers, and you will continue to build. And that's fascinating. I can't wait to hear what you're going to do with some mergers and acquisitions. I think I like it when our partners start thinking M&A. I mean, it's not a common thing. We think, hey, we're just going to grow organically, but you can grow systematically by making big jumps, by taking what you've already made and investing in your future. And there's all kinds of things there. Jenny, do you want to give us our closing word for the day? It's our office hours for our last one in August 2025, coming up right on Labor Day this week.
Yeah, you guys, welcome to the beginning of your 3-day weekend, everybody. And thank you, Brian, so much for taking time and just sharing your experiences with us and all your knowledge. One thing that I really take away is that you really do, when you roll up your sleeves, dig in, especially for those weird, I forget what word you utilize, but they're not a common occurrence, and you can really become a subject matter expert on those opportunities. It puts you ahead of the game, right? So really don't be afraid to dig in. And I hope everybody has a great weekend, and thanks for watching. Hope everybody has a great rest of your day.
Awesome. On behalf of Mike Stetzel, Jenny Rickle, our wonderful guest, Brian Kames, I'm Nate Manahan. We'll see you next week on Office Hours. Bye, everybody.
Bye, guys.